Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we'll discuss flight planning, mostly the alternates and isolated airdromes. Okay, the way you choose the alternates, what you need to take into consideration, and so on and so forth. I'd like to use also the first seconds of this video as a disclaimer. Please always refer to your manuals and never take any information from this video as official information. Okay, so we have takeoff alternates, destination alternates, and en route alternates. Okay, we'll start with the takeoff alternates. Now, every flight plan must specify a takeoff alternate. If meteorological conditions or performance conditions might preclude the return to our departure airdrome. So the weather could be bad and the airport does not have the facilities necessary for us to return back to it, or we might be too heavy and the runway won't allow us to land. So for that reason we need takeoff alternate. Okay, so I'll just write it for you. Okay, so we must have takeoff alternates in case the meteorological conditions and the performance conditions might preclude the return to the departure airdrome. Okay, so this is the reason why we should have it. There are some considerations we need to take into account when we plan our takeoff alternate. Okay, I'll just gonna write them down. So the first consideration, that it needs to be within 1 hour of still air flight time with 1 jet in operative speed, and it has to be calculated on the actual takeoff mass. Okay, so I'll just write it for you. So it must be within 1 hour of still air flight time with 1 jet in operative speed calculated on the actual takeoff mass. Okay, and the second point, the weather condition at the takeoff alternate should be 1 hour to 1 hour after our estimated time of arrival at the takeoff alternate, should be above the landing minima. Okay, so we have to check the weather. We cannot just plan an alternate without checking the weather and making sure that we can land there. Okay, so it's very important to check the weather and to see if our aircraft, if our license permits us to land in those conditions. So okay, so the Met report, the forecast must indicate 1 hour before and 1 hour after our estimated time of arrival that the weather will be above the landing minima. Okay, so we can be on the safe side. So we will have the certainty that in this period of time where we expect the landing, the weather is favorable. Okay, another point. Okay, for non-precision approach and circling approaches, we must take into account the ceiling. For non-precision approaches and circling approaches, the ceiling must be taken into account. Okay, another very important point, any one engine limitation must be taken into account. Okay, and last but not least, the minimum landing distance should be of 1,800 meters. Okay, now for the destination alternate, almost the same procedures apply. We need to make sure that the meteorological report indicates 1 hour before and 1 hour after our estimated time of arrival. The weather will be above the landing minima. Okay, so okay, so I guess that pretty much speaks for itself. So say today our destination is Doha. Okay, and we have as an alternate say Bahrain. Okay, so we have to check that the weather in Bahrain, which is our alternate. Okay, we have to check that the weather in Bahrain presents favorable conditions 1 hour before and 1 hour after our estimated time of arrival in Bahrain, guys. Okay, so keep this in mind. Okay, also for non-precision approaches and circling approaches, ceiling must be above the minimum descent altitude. Okay guys, so planning minimums for the destination alternate, for the en route alternate, for 3% en route alternate and isolated airdrome. We must make sure that the Met report indicates 1 hour before and 1 hour after our estimated time of arrival, that the weather will be above the planned landing minimum. Okay, so I'll write it again. Okay, now, the planning minimas. Guys, by now I hope you know what your minimas are. In case not, it's no problem. I'll have it ready for you here. Let's talk about the minimas a little bit. Okay, so as you probably already know, I'll just show it to you again. For a Cat 1 approach, the decision height should be a minimum of 200 feet, and the RVR should be a minimum of 550 meters. For a Cat 2 approach, the decision height should be between 200 feet, but never less than 100 feet, and the RVR should be a minimum of 300 meters. For a Cat 3 alpha, the decision height can be 50 feet, between 50 feet or no decision height, and the minimum RVR of 200 meters. For Cat 3 Bravo, okay, the decision height can be between 50 feet to no decision height, and the RVR is between 200 meters, but not less than 75 meters. Okay, and for Cat 3 Charlie, of course, is a full auto land, no decision height and no RVR, so it's a no limitation. Okay, the airports need to have this facility and so on and so forth. Okay, for a non-precision approach, we'll discuss it shortly. Okay, this depends on the system minima. It depends whether you're flying a VOR or a VOR DME or an NDB or NDB DME and so on and so forth. Okay, the circling, it depends also on the category of the airplane that you're flying. So say for example for a Cat C, I'll show it to you here. Okay, this is the circling for a Cat A, Cat B, Cat C and Cat D. Okay, this is the minimum descent height, and this is the visibility that you should have, okay, below each. So it goes like this. Okay, and for a visual approach, of course the ceiling must be a minimum of 2,500 feet above the airdrome level, visibility 5 kilometers or more, and stable at 1,000 feet. Okay, okay, now the way we plan for en route alternates or any kind of alternates is the following. Okay, for non-ETOPS, okay, for a Cat 2 and a Cat 3, we should take into account the Cat 1 decision height and the Cat 1 RVR. So in order to plan, if you plan to land a Cat 2 or Cat 3 on your alternate, you must have the Cat 1 weather conditions over there. Okay, this is mandatory. Okay, if you plan a Cat 1, okay, then the condition needs to be the conditions for a non-precision approach. Okay, the minimum RVR of 750 meters and the ceiling at or above the minimum descent height. Okay, observe, it's not decision height anymore, it's minimum descent height. We need the conditions for a non-precision approach. Okay, if you're planned for a non-precision approach, then the condition that needs to be are plus 200 feet from the minimum descent height. Okay, so you need to increase the published minimum descent height by 200, and need to increase the RVR plus 1,000 meters. So okay, so here let's say for example the published non-precision approach for that airport is 500 feet minimum descent height and 2,500 meters visibility. Okay, this is the already published, but if you plan for a non-precision approach, then you need to increase these values. So the number that you're looking for are 700 feet minimum descent height and 3,500 meters visibility. So you can only plan if the meteorological condition indicates the condition with magenta here. Okay. Okay, now when you plan for an ETOPS alternate, okay, in case you will perform a precision approach, the decision height or decision altitude has to be plus 200 feet from the normal and the visibility plus 800 meters. Okay. Okay, so in case you're choosing an alternate, your decision height or decision altitude should be plus 200 meters from the normal, and the visibility should be plus 800 meters from the normal. Okay, so just add 200 to the decision height and add this 800 to the visibility, and if the weather permits, then you are good to go to this airfield. Okay, and for a non-precision approach, the minimum descent altitude or height should be plus 400 feet and the visibility plus 1,500 meters. Remember, guys, this is for ETOPS, okay? The minimum descent altitude or height should be 400 meters more than the one that is usual there, okay? And the visibility plus 1,500 meter more. So you add these numbers to the numbers that are already published in a chart, okay, guys? You add 200 feet and the plus 800 meters for a precision approach to the numbers that are published already in the chart, in the approach chart. Same for a non-precision approach, okay? You add, so for example, if you have, say, for a non-precision approach, if the minimum descent altitude is 800 feet, okay, you will add the 400. So you're looking, the number that you're looking for is 1,200 feet. Okay, numbers of destination alternates. Okay, how many alternates do we need for our destination? When we choose one alternate, when we choose two alternates, when we choose none. Okay, so first things first, one alternate must be selected for all IFR flights. Okay, so one alternate must be selected for all IFR flights unless if the planned duration of the flight is less than 6 hours, or if during an in-flight replanning the remainder to the destination is less than 6 hours. Okay, so if the planned duration of the flight is less than 6 hours, or if during an in-flight replanning the time to destination is less than 6 hours, and if at your destination you have two separate runways which are available, and the weather is satisfying 1 hour before to 1 hour after your estimated time of arrival, okay, and the ceiling is at least 2,000 feet, or circling is plus 500, and the visibility is at least 5 kilometers, okay? So circling, for example, if our circling at altitude, let's say it's 2,400 feet, okay, you are okay to go only if the ceiling is at 2,900 feet. Okay, this is what you're looking for. If this is the case, okay, so you get a picture, you only need destination alternate. Okay, so again, you can write this down. If the flight time is less than 6 hours, or during in-flight replanning, the remainder of the flight is less than 6 hours, and two separate runways are available at destination, and the weather indicates that the ceiling is at least at 2,000 feet, or circling plus 500, as I explained here, and the visibility is at least 5 kilometers, you're okay to go without a destination alternate. Okay. Okay, or of course, if the destination is an isolated airdrome and no alternate exists. Now, when do we choose two alternates? We choose two alternates if the weather forecast indicates that 1 hour before and 1 hour after our estimated time of arrival will be below the planning minima, or in case there's no meteorological information available. In this case, we need two destination alternates, okay? Okay, or if no meteorological information is available. Okay. In this case, we need two alternates for our destination. Okay, so now that we understand when do we need no alternate, one alternate, and two alternates, we can also discuss the requirements that you need to take into account when planning for alternates. Okay, so they must be reachable at every moment of the flight. Okay, it must be within 1 hour flight time at one engine in operative speed. Okay, and the departure and the arrival must be considered as intermediate airdromes. Okay, and if any point on the route exceeds, and I'll explain this distance in a while, from the departure or arrival airdrome, the en route alternate must be selected. Okay, now the reason why I have not brought here any number is because it differs on the type of aircraft that you're flying. For example, let's say the A320. The A320 has 300 380 nautical miles. So if any point en route exceeds 380 nautical miles from the departure or the arrival aerodrome, you must select an en route alternate, okay? But this is only for the A320. Okay, I'll just write it here. A320. Okay, so for example, if you're flying an ATR, let's say the ATR 42, okay, as I remember, should be around 215 for the ATR 42. Okay. Okay, so this is it with the alternates and the requirements and the things that we need to look for before choosing an alternate. As I said previously, I'll explain the isolated airdrome procedure. Okay, as easy as it might seem, it has a few things that you should take into consideration, and which will be helpful for you. Okay, so the isolated procedure applies when you're flying to a remote island or a remote airfields and you don't have any available alternates anywhere close. Okay, so in this situation you need 2 hours of endurance overhead the airport. Okay, so we need to follow a few special procedures when we're planning for an isolated airfield. Okay, so in case your destination is isolated, then it will only be planned if the weather conditions 1 hour before and 1 hour after are favorable conditions, okay, so are above the our landing minima. Okay, so it can only be planned if the weather permits a landing there, okay, and we need to check in the METAR reports that 1 hour before to 1 hour after our estimated time of arrival the weather conditions are favorable, okay. And also, guys, very important, okay, and I'll write this with red. The isolated destination needs to be planned via a decision point, or in this case, it's a point of non-return, guys, okay. I'll draw a diagram as well shortly. Okay, guys, so this is a very simplified diagram. Okay, so say for example we are departing from airdrome 1 and our destination is an isolated airfield. Okay, we must reach the isolated airfield with 2 hours of safe endurance. Okay, the flight is planned by a predetermined decision point. Okay, just before reaching the predetermined decision point, okay, not at predetermined decision point, we have to perform some checks and calculation before reaching the predetermined decision point. Okay, we need to check if the weather conditions are okay to go to the isolated destination, if the fuel is enough to reach, and also we have plus 2 hours of safe endurance when we reach the isolated destinations. Okay, so if the performance and the meteorological factors permits, then we can continue to the isolated. If not, okay, we shall divert to the alternate aerodrome. Okay, we can refuel here, we can do whatever, but all these checks should be performed before reaching the predetermined decision point. Okay, you don't want to reach the predetermined decision point and then start doing the calculations. Okay, so meanwhile you'll be somewhere here and then you have to burn even more fuel to either return or go to intercept your route to the alternate. Okay, so usually the predetermined decision points are chosen at the best point on the route where it permits either a return or a diversion. Okay, so guys, this was it for this lesson. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you will subscribe to my channel and also leave comments in the box. And in case you need any assistance with anything, I'll be more than happy to do my research and help you the best I can. Thank you very much.